Earlier, I suggested that maybe we should just stick with these icons for now and wait until we hear back from the designer to see if they want to be specific about these icons. However, at this point, my own personal sense of style is being violated a bit by this very thick magnifying glass. So I think I'm going to bite the bullet and I'm going to create a custom font in Fontastic so we can get a nice thin magnifying glass. And along the way we can update our user icon and possibly get a Twitter icon instead of using the Twitter bird here. So I'm going to open up Fontastic, I'll log in, and it automatically comes up loaded with the font that you were working with. So I had created this FED for front-end development font, and so let's use this for our site. I'm going to deselect all the icons to start from scratch, and so let's do a search for search. All right, so I'm just going to scroll down and see our options. So this is the Font Awesome option. The InTypo one looks a bit thinner, and I scrolled back up. This one looks okay too. Okay, I think I'm going to go with the InTypo version, and then let's do a search for a user icon. So the one that we have now is this. Okay, so if we go back to the design, it looks a little bit like the MySpace logo. I'll go back to the browser. Iconic looks kind of close, but it has a little bit too much space there for me. I think the Font Awesome version might actually be the closest version we have without building our own. So we'll keep that. And now let's do a search for Twitter. So here's a Twitter icon that we could possibly use. Same here. All right, I'll grab the mini icon one. So now let's get this. I'll go ahead and click the publish and I'll download, save this, and expand it. Let's check it out in the File Explorer. So we have our fonts here and then a reference here. If we open this up, I'll just pull it up in a browser. It shows us what CSS classes it comes bundled with. I think we're going to skip using that for the same reasons that we're skipping using the Font Awesome styles. And then here's the character mapping. All right, so I'm going to go back to the File Explorer and I'm going to copy this fonts folder here and I'll jump to the base directory of our project and I'm going to create a new folder called fonts and I'll paste this font in there. And I'll also rename this FED font. Now we can go back to the package that we downloaded in order to see what the font face looks like in our styles.css. So let's open this up in our editor. So here we go. Let's copy this and let's open up our base partial. And we'll add font face right below this other font face for Font Awesome. So before we set a path, but the paths here are correct already, so we can just go ahead and leave it as is. And now let's try using this for the magnifying glass icon. So the font family is Fed font. So let's jump over to our search form. And here's our submit button. We'll change the font family to FED font. And again, here's our reference. We're going to use the character A in order to use the magnifying glass. So we'll go back to the code and we'll change this to A. We'll save it, jump back to the browser in our example and refresh. And we're not getting it pulled in, so let's troubleshoot. I'm going to check out our network to see if we're pulling in Fed font, and it looks like it's failing. If we hover over it, we can see why. The URL that it's pointing to is in the CSS directory and then the fonts folder. So it turns out we actually do need to change the directory inside of our font face. So I'll jump back to our code and I'll go back to our base partial and let's change the path here. So I'll copy this path variable and then we'll change it to the .. which will go up one directory. So that would be from the CSS directory, and then it will be in the fonts folder. Okay, and then we'll copy this path and we'll replace it in here, and we'll use the syntax that was used earlier for variable replacements, which is the hash symbol and then curly brackets around the variable. So I'll copy this and paste it in for every other place where we're using that path. We'll save this and go back to the browser and refresh. It's still not pulling it in. If we hover over one of the fonts here, which is red, because it's trying to grab it from our server, but it's failing, we can see that it's still not looking for it quite in the right place. It's looking for it in the fonts directory, but remember we set up a fed font directory within our fonts directory. So let's add that to our path here. Save this and try one more time. Aha, there we go. All right, so let's play with the CSS of this to try to get it looking right. We'll inspect the element and then we'll select the before pseudo element. And let's start by changing the font size. I'll change it to 20 pixels and that looks a little better, but let's bring it back to the same color as the font. We can grab that by going back to our variables. And it looks like what we have now is the AE, which is the medium dark gray. So let's go with the medium darker gray. So we'll copy that and paste it in here. Okay, so I'm not sure this looks a ton better than the Font Awesome icon, but it was worth a shot.